My name is Ben Espinosa. I am a grants manager at the LAC Department of Cultural Affairs. Today, we're going to be talking about the Cultural Grant Program. But before we get in, let me give you a little bit about us. Department of Cultural Affairs, we are the arts and cultural arm of Los Angeles City government. We have a mission of strengthening and improving the quality of life here in our city by supporting and stimulating arts and cultural activities for the public and helping ensure open access to arts and culture for all of our residents and visitors. One of our key levers for making that happen is our annual cultural grant program. And so we are thrilled to have your interest and to see your proposals and ideas for helping us advance that mission. Quick overview of what we can expect today. The webinar is scheduled for around 90 minutes. We typically need just about that much time. 1/3 of it is just about me giving you an overview of the program, major objectives, allowable projects, do's and don'ts, and an overall project timeline. We'll shift gears then to actually jump into SurveyMonkey Apply, which is the online platform for preparing and submitting your proposals. That's a lengthier segment of the presentation. It'll be a great opportunity to get acquainted with what a proposal looks like and having a sense of the qualities of the strongest proposals that we see. So with that, let's jump in. So the Cultural Grant Program that we're talking about today has some key eligibility requirements. So this is a very important first slide. I want to make sure folks who are logged in and joining the conversation today are actually eligible to seek funding with us. We are a city funder, and with this cultural grant program, we are interested in proposals from 501c3 nonprofit organizations. In particular, nonprofit organizations who have an arts and cultural focused mission. A good test for that is looking at your IRS determination letter, making sure, number one, you are a nonprofit organization. You are headquartered and based in Los Angeles County. So take a look at your most recent 990 filing with the IRS. Make sure the address on your filing there is somewhere in Los Angeles County. That tells us that you are an LA County-based nonprofit. But also look at that mission statement. That mission statement needs to have somewhere in that first or second sentence that your organization exists to provide some sort of arts and cultural service to the public. Be wary. We've received proposals from very, very large nonprofits who might not have an arts-focused mission, but they may have a very important standout program, and the program may have its own visions and goals. We're not interested in that. We're interested in the overall umbrella organization nonprofit's mission statement. It should have an arts and cultural focused mission. There's one exception to this. If you are a nonprofit based in Los Angeles County but do not have an arts and cultural focus mission, let's say, for example, you're a social service agency, social justice organization, an education institution that's not arts focused, you may be eligible to propose a project to us in our outdoor festivals and parades category if you are collaborating with a range of arts and cultural experts, arts organizations, culture bearers, who will curate an arts and cultural experience in your proposed outdoor festival parade. Okay, so that's the first check. Nonprofit, arts and culture mission, unless you're proposing an outdoor festival. You're based in Los Angeles County. Those are the key organization requirements. I'll flag as well, fiscally sponsored organizations are not allowable. We want you to be a fully incorporated nonprofit yourself. There's one exception to that as well. There is a Los Angeles-based business incubator called Community Partners. They exist and are based in downtown Los Angeles, so within LA City, and they incubate a range of promising nonprofit organizations, providing services that goes beyond any fiscal sponsorship, mentorship, program support, administrative support, overhead assistance. And so projects housed under the Community Partners umbrella may be eligible for support through our Cultural Grant Program. I'll pause there. When it comes to questions today, folks, I would rather folks unmute themselves and speak your question, just because it's a little difficult for me to handle the text box solo. So I'll pause if there's any questions regarding that key eligibility requirement. All right, not hearing any. The other element that you should think about is that you should be coming to us with a project that already exists. A project that already exists with a really compelling idea for how to make it bigger, faster, stronger, better with a city investment. And there are a couple takeaways with this. Number one, you can't come to us with brand new concepts that sound very promising. Rather, we want you to come to us with an iteration of a really promising idea that you've piloted at least once before. Number two, project. We are not a program funder, not a general operating funder. We don't support year-round activities or services. We are a project funder. That's in big contrast to a number of other funders in our region. Los Angeles County, for example, they provide a grant program that provides general operating support, year-long support. That's not us. We are the city of LA, and our grant making budget's far smaller than a lot of our peer funders, and for that reason, we are asking you to come to us with a project. So what that typically means, it's a subset of what your organization does over the course of a year. Let's say you do of free public concerts. A project for us might be a single season of free or low cost performances as well. How you define that project is where some of your grant savvy grant writer hat strategies can come in, and I'll help you shape that later on in the presentation. The other key element here is while we open up our eligibility to organizations based throughout Los Angeles County, we are a city funder offering grants that are generated through local municipal tax dollars. So services must take place within the municipal boundaries of the city of LA. So LA County is a giant region. LA City is a subset of that. It is important that you're proposing activities that takes place within the city of LA map. And we'll look at the map in a little bit, but that's another very important consideration. The other benefit of coming to us with a project rather than that you've done before is that you have an opportunity to really brag about it in your proposal for an audience of peer arts experts. You can share wonderful photos and videos of the last time you did your program and your project. You can share valuable metrics about audience, public engagement, number of jobs you helped create and sustain through the project. You'll have testimonials and feedback from the public around how wonderful your project and programming is. Those are all wonderful things to have that can only be because you have done this project at least once before. Okay? All right. I'll pause here again for eligibility questions because this is such an important slide. If you have a question, please unmute yourself and share your question with the group.
Hi, I have a question.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm going to put the camera on, it's nicer. Yeah, so you said the nonprofit has to be based in LA. The current project I'm working on, it's a nonprofit that headquartered in New York, but have the mission you're talking about, and then kind of hired me in LA to lead project for them, and they have a kind of an office here, but they're not headquartered here.
Yeah, that's unfortunately, Juliet, that can be a problem for us. It is important to us that applicants are headquartered in our region. There are really remarkable national nonprofits who do great work throughout the country and have a major segments of their programming here in Los Angeles. But even then, we cannot support that, even though they may have like a satellite office, even 1 or 2 or 3 staff members. That still doesn't work for us, given our mandate to support organizations based here in LA. In some instances, organizations have found ways to strategically branch off their organization structure such that there is an LA-based nonprofit, sister organization. And only then can such organizations be eligible to apply for our city grant program.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure thing. And so my feelings will not be hurt if you sign off now if that ends pursuit of these grant programs. But you're welcome to stick around. John, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you. We build music groups for seniors, many with neurodegenerative issues, and we're all over with about 12 different places, and we're building new groups through the senior centers of the city and the county. You said that you're project oriented, not program oriented, but a project would be to create a years long weekly music group at one of the city senior centers. And we're working with those directors and the LA Parks Department and all that, doing that. Would that satisfy you as a project?
There are a couple, yes and no there, John. What I like about what you propose as a potential project is that you're zeroing in on a singular site and location among the various locations your programming is targeting. What I don't like for us in terms of what we mean by a project is something that still spans a year long. Better for us is if you think about how you can structure a project that can be completed start to finish within generally no more than 6 months. If you're proposing something that spans 12 months out of a full on calendar year, it starts to feel more like a general operating support. And we prefer projects that can be begun and then completed within 3 to 6 months.
I see. I understand that when you get city funds, even county funds, you get them from supervisors, you get them from just council people, you get them from your agencies like that. They are focused in the districts or in the places that they come from. We understand that, we do it. It's just that we don't do one-offs for people. We're about participation, not performance. So it would be a whole series of things. I can do it 6 months. I could do 6 months.
Yeah, John, there's many ways to sculpt this into a logical project for us. If indeed you are let's say, at a singular site and programming, working with folks in a single site over a course of 12 months, perhaps the scope of your project can comprise merely the last 6 months of that partnership.
Or could I bundle several senior centers? Let's say Felicia Mayhood in West LA, Lincoln
Sure.
Heights, Hollywood.
That's yet another way of packaging a logical project for us. And we'll talk later on about other considerations to take when thinking about how to define project.
Since I have such specific questions and we're kind of unique, are you available by email or to talk
Yes.
about it further?
The DCA grant staff will be available up until the deadline to assist with questions.
Okay, then I'll reach out. I'll reach out that way and not take everybody else's time.
Very good. Leilani, you had a hand up as well regarding
Yes.
eligibility.
So, thank you very much. So our organization works with veterans and families of veterans, and we did a play where we had veteran playwrights write short plays and for a full evening of production. And so when you say itineration, so could the project be veteran playwrights, they write short plays or monologues, and it'd be an itineration of the project that we did before? Is that what can you explain? I'm so sorry. What do you mean by itineration?
Iteration is what I mean, where you're taking a concept that you've tried before and coming to us with a way to make it bigger, faster, stronger, better. And so the answer to your question sounds like it's a yes. Tell us about what worked well with that project concept before, and tell us how you're going to do it again, perhaps with a different cohort of vets, perhaps to explore new themes and topics that are timely for today, to culminate in what kind of presentation. So that sounds like a perfect iteration of something you've done before. That sounds very promising. You'll have metrics and feedback and a beautiful story to share with panelists about how a city investment can make it better.
Excellent. And one other question. So then within the, maybe say it's a year long from beginning to end, and within I would then request perhaps just the writing aspect of the project for funding from the city, correct? Like a 3 month, 4 month workshop series.
That is one way of framing a project, structuring a project for us. Sure.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much, Ben. Very, very helpful.
Jordan, I think your hand was next. Hello. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, actually, this is Woody. Jordan is the one that was working on writing this grant.
Okay.
But we're working on it together, and so that's how their name ended up getting on this. So what our project is we host bike rides, and we've done them up and down the LA River, several times with both youth and adults, and a lot of it has to do with mental health and getting people into nature. And so I feel like this could be a really great grant for us. However, our mission does not say art. Its a mission is an educational mission and uplifting the community. But art has always been part of pretty much every event and project that we've done. We usually have artists coming and have that be part of the expression.
Yep. There are possible ways you can explore intersection of arts and culture and work with arts and cultural curators, arts providers to potentially frame an eligible outdoor festival parade project. I recall a project supported in the past that involved, like a community run. The grant was not for anything related to the run. It was all about the celebration and party where the run culminated at. So it became an outdoor party at a public park, public space, where there was a main stage and you can hire, and then the applicant worked with local arts and cultural experts to curate an arts and cultural experience at the end of this event. So that might be one way of framing a potentially eligible project. But for things like a bike ride that spans multiple long distances, that's not a self-contained event, the city can be very risk averse, and ideas like that, while certainly meritorious, can be problematic for our grant program. However, if you limit the scope to such an event to simply the end point or the beginning, where there is a start time and end time, main stage, musicians, DJs, bands, dancers, it becomes an outdoor festival parade project.
Okay, so make it more of an outdoor festival and less of a bike ride, because we've also done hikes as well.
Yep.
And I do know that the bike ride does often have red flags, but I was also noticing that it was talked about sustainability in this grant.
Yep.
And we feel like bikes are a cornerstone of sustainability, and it's been always a part of our projects, not always the main point, but it's always been part of it.
Yeah,
is
one
doing
of the things I hope
bike.
folks will take away from today's presentation is that one of your goals as the grant writer seeking funding from a funder from us, like us, is to find the fundable components of activities that you're accustomed to doing. And that often means not proposing the entirety of a project. It might mean scaling it down, carving out the fundable chunk that can in itself serve as a compelling project. And so the example I gave is one way of doing that. And we can talk more about ways to fine tune that as we talk about the eligible project categories. But I'll say off the bat, if your mission statement doesn't have arts and culture in it, the only thing you can be eligible for under this grant program is an outdoor festival parade. Okay. All right. One more question before we'll move on. And I have a raised hand from Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, Ben. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. I'm very new to this, so please forgive my ignorance on some of these things. Two quick questions. I wanted to clarify the project. I didn't catch, you said it had to take place in Los Angeles or Los Angeles County.
So yeah, very important. If eligible organization must be headquartered in the county of Los Angeles. So basically, if you're in the LA region, if you're based here, okay. Your proposed project needs to take place within the municipal boundaries of the city of Los Angeles.
Okay.
You can be based in Santa Monica, but you can't propose services in Santa Monica. You can be based in Santa Monica proposing services in Venice. All good. You can be based in Culver City, Beverly Hills, but we can't support activities in those cities. We can, however, support activities in adjacent neighborhoods within the city of LA.
Okay, yeah, we're LA, and most of our stuff takes place at the Writers Guild, so I'm not sure if that's Los Angeles or WeHo. So I'm like, let me find out.
I'll show you some resources in a few slides where you can look things up, so by address, by venue name, and so forth. All right.
Okay. Great. All right. Okay. I'll take it. I'll stop it for there, and I'll find out more later.
I'm happy to have spent that time on this first slide. It's so important. It is unfortunate that we sometimes have to disqualify proposals that have been so thoughtfully put together otherwise. because it's an organization based outside of LA. They're proposing activities in areas like Altadena or East LA, which fall outside of the municipal boundaries. So I'm happy to spend that time on this slide. All right, LA County Arts and Cultural Mission, come to us with a project you've done before with an idea to make it bigger, faster, stronger, better. And then we also have a set of project-specific qualifications, which we'll start to talk about now. So under the Cultural Grant Program, your project will fall under a number of categories. And so here they are. The vast majority of the proposals we expect to receive will be artistic projects. Artistic projects is where you are hiring, contracting, employing musicians, dancers, visual artists, designers, other performers. You're hiring artists, asking them to do stuff that they do best, which is to perform and present for the public. So these are your concert series. These are your dance education community workshops that culminates in some sort of awesome dance showcase for the public. These are your super avant-garde, trans-artistic disciplinary projects that mixes poetry and spoken word and motion into an exciting series of free and low-cost presentations at your local community center. Most projects will fall under the artistic project category. And importantly, I'll stress this again and again, this is a project where you're paying artists. I'll mention this over and over, but one of our key goals of this grant program is to stimulate and fund artists, local creative workers, and anyone else who participates, in making Los Angeles a very exciting, robust, creative economy. So most projects are artistic project. If you're doubtful, most likely your project is an artistic project. Okay, next category, very popular, is our outdoor festivals and parades category. This is the category where organizations who are not arts and cultural mission specific can partner with neighboring nonprofit arts organizations. They can hire local arts experts, work with other community stake arts experts to help curate an arts and cultural experience. These are 1 or 2 day events taking place in outdoor public spaces, think public parks, streets and sidewalks, if you've lawfully permitted and block them so they can be safe and conducive for fun and enjoyment. Public plazas and other corridors that are publicly accessible and easily seen from the streets and sidewalks. Importantly, these are events that showcase 4 or more thematic presentations. A key characteristic of this project category is if I'm a music school and I want to do this outdoor music bonanza at my local park, I'm not just showing off my musicians. I'm not just showing off my teaching artists. I'm also showing off other local groups and art and performers of the community. We expect to see proposals in the outdoor festival and parade category to have a pretty robust list of variety of arts and cultural music groups, acts, and other artists. In fact, we expect that your proposal to us under the Outdoor Festival Parade will feature a roster of artists that shows at least 30% new names, groups, and acts from the last time you did it. We don't like projects in this category that showcase the very same artists from year to year. We want an element of freshness to it to keep these annual events, which they typically are, fresh and exciting, and a draw for the local neighborhoods and communities who come to rely on them as a point of pride and community celebration. So these are your Dia de los Muertos festivals. These are your outdoor block parties, music festivals, things like that. We love festivals, not for a number of reasons. Number one, we get great bang for the buck as an investor in them. Typically, these cards can be produced and reach wide ranges of audiences. Typically, these are free events, and we love those types of things. Any questions regarding artistic projects and festivals? Okay. Regarding festivals as well, I want to highlight that there's three kinds of them. And it's dictated primarily based on how many people showed up the very last time you did it. These are important because this might impact how much money you can request of us in your grant proposal. So think of them as just three types of festivals. We have our very small ones. These are our tier 1 events. These are outdoor events with fewer than 500 in attendance last time. It's really more of kind of like a outdoor pop-up that has the potential to grow into a larger event. Tier 2 events, we have a lot of these festivals in our portfolio. These are events ranging with at least 500 people of audience, of festival goers, up to 2,000. And finally, our really big tier 3 festivals and parades. These are the ones where you're closing down multiple city blocks, working with city council offices, LAPD, so you can close down streets, sidewalks, and the park so you can amass more than 2,000, sometimes 5,000 plus people showing up. These are really remarkable events and may be eligible for the largest grant asks. We'll talk about your dollar amounts in a little bit. But those are the 3 tiers of festivals and parades. And in all cases, we expect the roster of artists, proposed artists, to reflect at least a 30% change of including 30% new artists as compared to the last time the events took place. We have 2 other project categories, far less common, but it is worth mentioning. We have a category. It's a mouthful, but it's a very descriptive mouthful. These are sequential arts and school learning, culminating after-school public event projects. Shorthand, you might think of it as arts education, but we've come to learn that it's very important to use this very detailed acronym, SailCAPE, because it bears reminding applicants that the Department of Cultural Affairs is not really an arts education funder. There are other funders who kind of specialize in that work. Rather, we are interested in investing in free and low cost arts and cultural opportunities for the general public. And the unfortunate reality with public schools as a setting is that public schools are not really public spaces. It's not a place that you and I can simply knock on the door of at any time of the day and show up and say, hey, I want to see the arts education happening in that classroom. Principal will throw you out the door. So important for us, if you are an arts organization with specializations in arts education, you have an impressive roster of teaching artists who execute a California art standards aligned curriculum, delivering rigorous sequential arts learning. We want to be able to find ways to support your project if you're able to structure a project that culminates in a culminating presentation, concert, showcase, exhibition, where it takes place after school hours, in the weekends, in the evenings, that is promoted to the general public. More and more, it can be difficult to do this, given some of the difficulties in LA Unified schools. But we do have remarkable arts organizations who have strong partnerships with schools, who work with willing principals who want to open up their space to the public. And those are instances where SailCAPE projects can thrive. But very important in this category, you are proposing a rigorous curriculum that's aligned with California arts standards, CAPA standards. Some people might be familiar with them with. The artists that you're going to be telling us that you're going to be paying is really your teaching artists, experts in arts education in your specific discipline, dance, music, theater, visual arts. But important that your project includes that after-school evening performance. And finally, we have a category called FASL, Field Advocacy and Sector Learning. These are organizations who might not necessarily have a mission about providing arts and cultural presentations. Rather, they exist because they are all around field building, professional development, knowledge sharing, and peer-to-peer networking among arts professionals. If your project doesn't really have artists presenting to the public, but you're paying expert facilitators, subject matter experts in the arts to convene and promote knowledge and networking, you might be a FASL organization proposing a FASL project. These are your conferences, networking events around the arts. and professional development opportunities in the arts. I have a question from Andrew. Andrew, please feel free to unmute yourself and present your question.
Sure. So my question is, you were talking about the sequential arts in school learning, and I wasn't aware of this, and this is not what we're applying for, but I did have a question about, is this something that's available to private schools?
Private schools, it may not be an eligible applicant. Are you suggesting private school as a venue?
Yes, because I teach at a private school. I teach art and drama. So this might be something interesting for me to take to the principal going forward.
That's an interesting question. Or I can't say we get many proposals involving private schools. Almost without exception, the projects we receive in this category work with LA Unified traditional schools as well as charter schools, because charter schools are public schools. But I can't say I've seen it work. I've seen a proposal with private schools. I won't necessarily say it's ineligible. I just haven't seen it. It might be a tough case, given how rare it is, but there might be a case to be made. Your job, if you're going to pursue that direction, is to convince a peer panel that the project is worthy of public investment. So maybe maybe the education is happening in the classroom, but it culminates in some blowout public event for the entire neighborhood. That's one way I could see it potentially, moving a peer panel, peer panel.
Great, thank you.
Does that help, Andrew?
Totally, thank you.
Great. All right. So those are the proposal project categories. We'll now talk about our peer panel kind of like cycle. You might imagine we support a wide range of projects with our cultural grant program, spanning dance, music, theater, visual arts, museum exhibitions, gallery shows, traditional and folk arts, culture and history, poetry and spoken word. We don't recruit the peer panel experts for all of those artistic disciplines every year. It's just it's too much to handle for our small but mighty team. So we've arrived at this concept where we have a strategic recruitment process for our peer panel experts, where in even numbered calendar years like 2024, this will be the year we're going to recruit all of our performing arts focus experts. These are dance event producers, theater company, administrators, music professionals, and theater and multidisciplinary arts presenters. This is the year we're going to convene those experts, which is why we're particularly interested in proposals that fall under those artistic disciplines. Because if you submit under one of those artistic disciplines this year, your proposal will be what we will call on cycle, meaning that your proposal will be adjudicated by the experts who are best suited to be reviewing your proposal. That means it'll get you up to 2 years of funding consideration for the project that you're proposing. So that once you're on cycle, you get on a rhythm with DCA where you're reapplying to our grant program only every other year on even numbered calendar years. Odd numbered calendar years, like last year, 2023, was the year we recruited our non-performing arts focus experts. These are our local arts historians, our museum experts, design visual arts experts, our traditional folk arts experts, and our literary poetry spoken word experts. And so those proposals that were submitted last year in those categories are eligible for 2 years of funding. If you're coming to us this year, an even numbered calendar year, and let's say you are a literary arts organization proposing a series of live poetry readings at a neighborhood center, your project is eligible. You are certainly welcome to submit a proposal. However, your proposal will not be read by a peer panel of literary arts experts. Rather, it will be read by a mixed group of experts There'll be a film festival person in this panel. There'll be a literary person. There'll be a design visual arts museum person. So it's a mixed panel reviewer reviewing your proposal, and that begets you only 1 year of funding consideration. In those instances, you would apply this year and then be asked to apply again next year, an odd number calendar year, to get on this on-cycle biannual cadence. Does that help explain our scheme for proposals and reapplication cycles? That's the big takeaway here. If you're coming to us with an eligible project or an eligible organization, great. The question is, will it be eligible for 2 years of funding consideration or only one? And it's based on this proposal submission cycle. I have a raised hand from Jennifer. Hi.
Helps if I unmute. Thank you. My question for you is because we do educational workshops and, peer-to-peer networking. You should take off the FASL and put Jennifer Business of Creating Institute. That's who we are and what we do. So you can imagine how excited I was. But could we also qualify under multidisciplinary then, since we're doing workshops for the Business of Creating is for education within entertainment. So that definitely falls under arts. But what would be without giving the lengthy explanation, because I appreciate people's time, but what would be the recommendation of how to apply then?
The FASL category is not one we see a whole lot of proposals for, because generally speaking, more likely the applicant organization is proposing an artistic project. FASL organizations, a good check for a FASL project, a good check is to take a look at your mission statement.
Mhm.
Is your mission statement around delivering arts and cultural services for the public, presenting arts and cultural services, presenting dance, music, theater, visual arts, what have you, to the public? Most likely you're going to come to us with an artistic project. If, on the other hand, your mission statement's around advocacy, around professional networking, field building,
Yes.
then you're probably coming to us with a FASL project.
Okay.
A good test is take a look at your roster of paid artists. Are these artists going to be presenting to the public? Are they going to be facilitating knowledge building opportunities and workshops?
That one, the second one.
If that's the case, and you have a mission that really aligns with that,
Yeah.
it might be the case you're proposing a FASL project, in which case you should submit a FASL proposal.
Okay.
It'll more likely than not be reviewed by this 1 year mixed panel I mentioned earlier, in which case
Yeah.
you would be asked to reapply again next year for continued funding consideration.
Sure.
But I would caution against, going against your mission statement, going against the typical project that you want to be proposing to us,
Right.
just to align with our submission calendar here.
Yeah, I just, you're going like, I could try it, with a slight, tweak, you could do it under, something else, but yeah, I want to present the.
I would check your mission statement. If your mission statement is all around field building and sector advocacy, it might be the case a FASL project is most appropriate.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, okay. All right, so with that out of the way, let's talk about priorities, because this is where you should really start thinking about, I'm thinking this is what my organization does on an annual basis. We do a whole lot of good things. How do I carve out a subset of those activities into a logical competitive project for DCA? So one of the first things you should consider are our priorities as a funder, because you as savvy grant writers will find all those opportunities for intersection and find the fundable components for your project, so that you can come to us with a logical sense of activities that will be competitive. So first one, very important, free or low cost activities open to the public. We do not do galas. We don't do events where folks are paying $100 a ticket. We don't do things where it's invite only, VIP only. We're looking for events that you will market to the general public, that you'll offer for free, which is great, or low cost. Low cost is something we define as what one might pay for a typical commercial movie ticket nowadays. So if you're charging someone $25 to see your chamber music concert, you're probably in the ballpark for what we would call low cost. So that's a key criteria. Next thing, as I mentioned before, we consider our grant program to be a job creator, job sustainer for local jobs here in Los Angeles. So think about the subset of activities that you're doing on every year, and find the stuff where you're really paying a lot of people, where you're paying a lot of your artists, and where you're contracting with a variety of creative workers, paying them honoraria and stipends. Though that might be a good thing to consider when you think about what you're proposing to us for funding, because we want things where a big chunk of your proposed project budget includes payments to artists. We care about programs and activities that demonstrate connections to the communities that you are delivering them in. And one way of showing that to us is capacity enrollment, butts in seats, impressive attendance, proposing programs with topics and themes that resonate with your audiences. Those are the types of things that we like to invest in also. Finally, LA City is a weird map in a way, because there's lots of pockets of not LA City, but is LA County or other parts, other municipalities. It's a big area of the map. We span everything from the West Hills, Woodland Hills, Canoga Park, all the way down to San Pedro. It's a big map. And so one of our mandates as a funder is to ensure open access to arts and culture, regardless of where you are in LA City. So you might imagine that the very middle of this colored section of the map, all the points where the freeways converge, lots and lots of museums, galleries, theaters, performing arts venues, areas where you can throw a stone and it ricochets off, several nonprofit arts organizations and existing cultural resources. So one of our goals is to incentivize projects that takes place in the outer regions of our city. And we define these arts underserved areas as, generally speaking, the far-flung parts of the San Fernando Valley. That's Council Districts 3, 6, 7, and 12 up there on the map. South Los Angeles, which is areas below the 10 freeway but above the 105. Neighborhoods such as Crenshaw, historic South Central. And a new addition to our group, our map of arts underserved areas include the 11th Council District, which is the far west side. This includes neighborhoods like Mar Vista, Westchester, Venice, Playa Vista, areas where we're finding fewer and fewer arts and cultural resources. So to the extent that you can be strategic about structuring the geography of your project to us so that it is exclusively or prioritizes services in these areas, you would do well with us, because we'll talk about some of the scoring criteria, and one of them is geography, as simple as where you're proposing your activities. It's in downtown LA, where you can throw a stone and it'll ricochet off all of those major arts organizations. It's not going to do very well geographically with us. If, on the other hand, you're partnering with social service agencies, community centers to produce and present free low-cost event activities in South LA, in Crenshaw, that could do very well for us geographically. I have a question from Lindsay.
Hi, yes. I was just wondering, this is kind of what you were just talking about, but are there certain city districts that might receive more funding than others? Like if they are in those under served arts community areas, are they more likely to receive more funding, or is it just helpful for the application?
All things being equal, one proposal suggesting exact same services in downtown LA versus the ones proposing activities in the far west side or in the far-flung parts of the valley, the latter proposal will get a little bit more money, just because of the way our scoring system works.
Great, thank you.
Does that help? Okay. So one key thing to consider, if you are a theater company and you do community presentations, you have the ability to be mobile and a bit nomadic, and you do presentations in downtown at those marquee venues like Red Cat next to Disney Hall, but you also do free community outreach presentations in South LA or Pacoima, Van Nuys. All things being equal, a proposal focused exclusively on those community outreach concerts, taking anything to do with downtown outside of it, will do better, because your project is focused exclusively in arts underserved areas in the map for us. In the top right of this page, you can see a shortcut link to this map. It's an interactive Google map. I encourage you to check it out. Double check your venues. You can search by address or venue name, just to make sure, number one, it's within LA City, and number two, you have a sense of what council district it's in. There's one error on this map and it bugs me. I have to call it out. It's that the Marina Del Rey is highlighted in yellow there, looking like it's part of Council District 11. It is not. Marina Del Rey is actually unincorporated Los Angeles County in the way that areas like East LA and Altadena are unincorporated parts of LA County and are not eligible for proposed services. So I need to call that out. Another resource is neighborhoodinfo.lacity.org. This gives, if you go to that website, punch in an address, it gives you a whole bit of information about that address, about your representatives locally, in the state and federally, and importantly, council district. So if you punch in an address there and it spits out nothing, that means you're probably putting an address in that's not LA City. Okay, two very important tools to use as you're exploring potential activity locations. Great. Another important element of your proposal will be your data arts reporting. So all applicants, with a couple of exceptions, and I'll talk about the exceptions in a moment, are expected to have current data arts surveys completed on your SMU Data Arts account. SMU Data Arts is a cultural, they are Southern Methodist University houses this national database used by arts organizations across the country and funders. It collects information about your finances, your organization's finances, your programming, workforce, fundraising, all of that through annual surveys. For funders, it's great because we're able to use that to compile your data and package it in a way that we like to see and is consistently presented for our peer panel experts who are reading your proposal. So if you're applying to us, it is important you as a nonprofit arts organization have at least 2 years of current cultural data arts reporting entered, and so that you can prepare a funders report for us as part of your proposal. 2 exceptions to this data arts reporting requirement. Number 1, if you are a tiny arts organization with annual revenues of less than 20K or less than 2 years of operating history, you would be applying to us as an emerging arts organization with a very modest grant ask of no more than $3,000. You are exempt from including in your application a data arts report. Second exception is if you are a non-arts organization proposing an outdoor festival parade project. We don't necessarily expect you to be an arts organization, so you are also exempt from this requirement. And in both of these exceptions, if you're an emerging arts organization or a non-arts focused nonprofit with an outdoor festival parade proposal, you can instead upload your most recently filed IRS 990 filing in lieu of the data arts funder report. All applicants will also have a way to upload supplementary financial materials like a P&L, balance statement, to show panelists other angles and information about your organization's financial health. The following slides will just kind of highlight how you go about producing a funders report for us as part of your proposal. So this website, culturaldata.org, once you're there, you'll log into your organization's data arts account. So contact the person in your organization who does this. And on your dashboard, once you log in, you'll see your most recent data surveys, data art surveys. So this is a step that can take a lot of time. So I hope most of you have at least started this process already. Where you fill in a lot of information based on your financials, programming, performance, etc. Once you're on your dashboard and you've completed your surveys, there's on the upper menu, there is a funder reports and grants button. You can click on that. It'll allow you to search for funders across the country for a funder report. So an easy way to find us, LA City Cultural Affairs, is to type in something like Cultural Affairs. Click find, and then you'll get a list of results there. Make sure to select us, LA City Department of Cultural Affairs. It looks like we're just the second one on this results there. Click on that, and then click on view, and then you'll click on the generate report using the data art survey information you've already entered. Once you clicked on generate, you click on this link, it'll produce a PDF, and you know you have the correct funders report because you'll see our DCA logo in the upper right-hand corner. This is a PDF, save it to your computer somewhere. It's going to be one of the things you're going to upload in your proposal, and I'll show you where to do that when we get to that section of our presentation. This is a common application pitfall. Make sure you are providing the correct data arts funder report. We receive proposals from applicants who inadvertently upload their funder report for Los Angeles County. That's not us, remember. There are sister agency in county government, but that's not the funder report you want to see. Make sure your funder report has the DCA green egg logo in the upper right-hand corner. Any questions regarding SMU data arts reporting? Great.
Yeah. Do you plan to show any slides, share any slides or not?
Slides of what?
Screen, like different sites or different. I mean, anything you plan to share on screen or just discussion like this?
I'm sharing.
You're not sharing any
Are you
screen.
seeing images on your screen, Mahbub?
Yeah, images or screen. Yes, you want to share any? Do you plan to share any screen?
I am currently sharing my screen.
We can see his screen. There.
We cannot see the screen. I cannot see the screen. And if you are showing anything, I cannot see it.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, Mahbub. I am sharing. I've been sharing my screen for the past hour.
Oh, I see. Yeah, somehow I cannot. I do not see that at all. Oh.
Perhaps minimize some of your windows. You might have a second monitor, but what you can rely on is we will be posting a recording of this on the DCA website, where you'll have an opportunity to view a recording of this, which will include.
Also, you will give us a copy of the video that you're recording.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
My apologies, but maybe Mahbub, you're actually very lucky here, because this slide that's currently up right now, it's a lot of text. It's not a very sexy slide at all. It's a lot of reading, and it's important it is because it has a lot of text, because it is very important. It's important that you do your data art survey funder report, because there's a key page there where it summarizes your organization's revenue for the most recently completed fiscal year. And for all applicants, with the exception of our emerging arts organizations and our festival applicants, that total revenue less in kind is what will dictate how you calculate your maximum allowable grant request with us. So let me summarize this slide really quickly. Step one is basically looking at what size your organization is in. Most of the folks enrolled in today's workshop fall under our small and mid-sized category. Where you can request a certain percentage of your total revenue to determine your maximum allowable. So for example, if you are a mid-sized nonprofit with a budget of in the $125,000-$200,000 range, $300,000 range, you'll probably want to apply under a mid-sized category, where you can request up to 10% of your last completed fiscal year total revenue, up to no more than $40,000, with all your requests amounting for no more than 50% of the total project budget. And so that's an important last part of this sentence, because all of our grants come as with a one-to-one matching requirement. So in other words, if you are asking DCA for $10,000, it implies you're proposing a project that costs at least $20,000 to produce, because you would be asked to take $10,000 of city money and match it with at least $10,000 from non-city sources. So that can be your federal grants, your state grants, money from the Los Angeles County Department of Arts and Culture, private philanthropy from foundations, foundation money, corporate sponsorships, contributions from your board members, donations from your members and from the public. Even a mix of donated in-kind services and materials that can help count toward your match also. But not understanding that we expect grantees to meet their minimum matching requirement using at least 50% cash or cash equivalent sources. So if you have a $10,000 grant, you should demonstrate at least $10,000 in matching non-city sources, consisting of at least $5,000 in cash sources, and the rest can be in-kind materials and services. A way to translate all of this text is to utilize our maximum allowable grant request calculator. You might have seen that on our website. We'll do a demonstration of it when we get to the online application itself. But that's a helpful way of taking your organization size, taking your annual operating revenue, your total project budget, and confirming how much you can ask from DCA. So the two last categories here are unique for the emerging arts organizations. These are, again, our very small emerging nonprofits with very small budgets. You can come to us with up to $3,000 for an artistic project, understanding that your project budget should be at least double your grant ask because of our one-to-one match. Festival producers. So this is where it's important you recognize if you fall under our tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 categories. Our very small events, outdoor events with fewer than 500 attendees can request up to $6,000. Our mid-sized tier 2 festivals can request up to $15,000 if you had attendance of up to 2,000 the last time you produced your event. And our very, very large tier 3 outdoor festivals and parades can request up to $40,000 if your event had more than 2,000 people the last time. And again, in each of these instances, your maximum ask cannot exceed 50% of the total project budget because of our one-to-one match. Any questions regarding calculating maximum allowable requests and our one-to-one matching requirement? Okay. Not seeing any, we'll proceed. How you get to the application itself. It's in the guidelines here, which should be familiar to you because it's probably how you registered for today's webinar. It's listed under the apply button. If you click there, you'll find a link to SurveyMonkey Apply, which we'll go over momentarily. Quick overview of the timeline. Remember, you're coming to us with a project proposal that's forecasting activities many months into the future. Okay, our timeline kind of is beholden to the City of Los Angeles government budgetary process. We operate in fiscal years, which begins July 1. So your proposal that you submit by August 30th will get reviewed and audited by DCI grant staff. We're going to recruit peer panel experts to read your proposals. And you're not going to hear from us until May or June of 2025. That's around the time the city kind of finalizes its fiscal year budget for the year that begins July 1st. So it's around May or June you're going to hear from us with the results of your proposal. So it takes a while for us. We appreciate your patience. But this process does take quite a while for us to review proposals, recruit panelists, to facilitate panel meetings who will read all your proposals before you hear the good news from us in July, in May and June. All right, I'm going to pause here for questions before we jump into the online application. Okay. Hi, Susanna, I see your hand.
Yeah, hi, Ben. I have a couple of kind of frank questions, I guess. One would be, how competitive is this process? What percentage of applications do you expect to fund? Specifically, mine would be in the Sail Cape category, which I know is a smaller subset. And the second question is, how many hours should one expect to spend on a competitive application? I know that we are, in fact, only 9 days from the due date, and tiny nonprofits are stretched very thin. So for those of us trying to, assess whether we can potentially put in,
All right.
10, 15, 20 hours over the next 9 days, what would you recommend?
Two great questions, and I welcome them. The first one, it's actually it's good news. This we are proud, we fund every year when you collate the mix of folks who are beginning their second year of funding who didn't have to apply, and we collate that with the folks who with brand new proposals. It amounts to it approaches just around 400 proposals, all told, and we fund around 350 of those. So it's a very, very good success rate. And one of the ways this works is because as a government funder, we do not give all meritorious proposals 100% of your grant ask. It all works as a formula. So based on your grant request, we take your panel ranking score, and then we take what we are allocated by the city of LA for grant making, and we simply run the formula where all of our A students scoring in the upper tier in the 90 range plus will get X% of their grant ask. Our B students will get closer to 75, maybe 60 to 70% of their grant ask. And our passing students who are all scoring 75 and above will get some portion of their grant ask, typically just below 50%. So in this way, many meritorious projects gets a portion of the grant ask. And so one of the strategies we are going to go into in proposal writing is, as part of framing your project for us, it's always good to frame it so that it is very scalable in nature. If you're requesting 20K, proposing 20 free low-cost community concerts, if we come to you with, hey, budget is as it is, and you're ranking, we can only offer you $10,000. Would you be willing to produce half of that, 10 concerts? It's a smart and savvy way of coming to us with a scalable project so that you can deliver services successfully, commensurate to your grant resulting grant reward. So first question is a very good success rate. Number two, how many hours? That can vary greatly. That's a tough question. If this is your very first time preparing an LAC DCA cultural grant proposal, it'll take a long time. In no small part because of that data arts requirement. That can be a beast. That can take up to 2-3 weeks by itself, depending how complex your organization's finances and programming data management is. On the other hand, if you applied to us 2 years ago and coming to us to reapply, you'll find our grant requirements are 99% the same as last time. So you're going to be delighted to simply copy paste from your proposal from 2 years ago, just tweaking it to update the latest and greatest about your organization. So that second question is a hard one to answer. It can range dramatically. If this is your very first time preparing a proposal, it will be very difficult to get something polished and put together by the August 30th deadline. Not to say it's impossible, but I've seen miracles happen. Does that help a little bit, Susanna?
It does. Let's say we have the data arts done, or let's say that's not a problem, then can you give me any estimate, any ballpark? No.
I don't want to be held to that number, but what we're going to do is we're going to go through the online application, so you can make your own judgment based on the things that we're going to look at. How about that?
Okay.
Great. Any other questions before we jump into the application itself? Great. Excellent. All right. So I'm going to share my screen now. Mahbub, I'm sorry that you're unable to see this, but again, you will get a chance to see the recording.
Yeah, I can see it now. I can see it now.
Fantastic. Excellent. All right. So after you click on that apply button on the DCA guidelines, it'll take you to this landing page on SurveyMonkey Apply. It's where our DCA grants program lives. If you are brand new here, the very first thing you're going to do is click on the register button, create an account for yourself, representing a nonprofit organization. So make sure to set yourself up as an organization. Once you create an account, you'll have an opportunity to log in. I have a dummy account here we can look at together. Well, I'm logging in now. One of the important things to note after you log in for the first time is that upper left-hand side is indicating whether or not you're logged in as an individual person or representing your organization. So in order to apply to this grant program, it's important you put on the organization hat. So right now I'm showing myself as individual artist Jacopo Peterman, I'm going to select my organization that I'm affiliated with so that I can start an application under this grant program. If you haven't started your application yet, you'll find it under the programs up here in the menu bar. Cultural Grant Program, Fiscal 25-26. We're going to click on more. We're going to click on the green apply button. I actually started the proposal now, so I won't click on that apply button so we can work off a par-baked proposal here. And you can always access all your applications by clicking on the My Applications button on the menu bar. And you'll see that my current one I'm working on, Cultural Grant Program, Fiscal 26. All right, so I've started this and I'm going to continue it so we can look at it together. Just quick orientation on what SurveyMonkey Apply looks like. Once you're here, think of this as your landing page for your grant proposal, which is basically your checklist of your to-do items for all the various components of your proposal. You can see them listed here. The meaty part of this is that very first item called the organizational grant proposal. And everything else are uploads and supplementary materials you're using to accompany your proposal. You can immediately see the items that have been started, but not yet completed because they'll have this green half moon icon next to it. Anything that hasn't been started yet will have this grayed out circle, and items that you've filled out and marked and filled in and marked completed will have very satisfying green check mark. In order to submit your proposal, I can't submit it right now, you have to have all the required items checked off. So let's jump in to the first item, which is the organizational grant proposal. So in the organizational grant proposal, it consists of 3 pages, and you can navigate through those 3 pages using the previous and next buttons on the bottom of the screen. So for example, right now I'm navigating to the very first page, previous and previous. Here's instructions for that. In addition, this is an opportunity to download a PDF preview of all the questions you're going to see here. I always encourage folks to prepare your narrative responses in advance on something like Microsoft Word, so you can take advantage of key tools like spell check, grammar check, word and character count, so that you can come into your application here and simply copy paste your responses. So we're now at the first page of the organization grant proposal. First page is pretty easy. It's very basic information about your organization. Please fill out your official IRS name, mailing address, give us your main contact and a secondary contact. Give us a sense of whether or not you participated in a grants workshop or viewed a webinar. And then finally, important parts about your project. As I mentioned before, most of our projects are going to fall under the artistic project category, but all the other categories are listed here as well. If you have a Sailcape project focused in schools, a FASL field sector advocacy project, or one of our 3 tiers of outdoor festivals and parades. Note that if you do select a festival project, you're going to be asked a follow-up question about the nature of your proposed artistic roster, because we want to make sure you're going to be showcasing at least 30% new artists, musicians, performers, groups, and acts in your next iteration. My sample project, I framed this around a series of concerts. That's my artistic project. Next question is about your budget size. I'm going to pretend I'm an organization with a just under $50,000 operating budget. That puts me well within the small arts budget organization category. But I think in today's attendance, we have a wide range of organizations. Select the category that makes the most sense for you. If you are applying in the large and extra large budget organization, there is an extra step. It's expected that you arrange a phone consultation with our Director of Grants, Joe Smoke, before you submit a proposal. So I don't think there might be 1 or 2 large or extra large organizations here who are applying for the very first time. That would apply to you. Otherwise, emerging small and mid-sized groups can proceed without that initial coaching call. This is where you have an opportunity to click on our maximum allowable grant calculator. assuming you've done a couple of bits of homework first. You've completed your data art so that your most recently completed fiscal year total revenue number is readily available, so you know what your budget size is. Number two, you have at least an estimate on how much your project will cost to produce. Once you have those ingredients, you can use our allowable grant request calculator. So let me go ahead and open that. Gabriel, you've raised a hand. I invite you to unmute yourself and share your question.
Yeah, I did have a question for on the on emerging arts organization, right? That's the way that you all have structured the application is for folks that are requesting the smaller amounts, right? I'm recently incorporated, but I have 10 years of arts programming experience. So here, would I still click on that emerging arts org or like?
Is that 10 years of experience, was that produced under the auspices of the name of your organization?
Yes.
Will you have data arts reporting that shows at least 2 years of financial and programmatic history?
No.
Well, that will be the determining factor then. If you don't have more than 2 years of data arts programming, you're going to be limited to either applying as an emerging arts organization, or if you have an outdoor festival parade project that you've done at least once before, that might be a way you can request a dollar amount larger than $3,000.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, so using the grant calculator is super easy once you have those bits of information about your organization. Click the continue button here. In my example, I'm an organization operating around the 45K level, so I'm a small organization. I'm expecting, I'm sorry, let me enter that number as well, $45,000. I'm going to click next. I am expecting to produce a series of concerts for the community, as that's an artistic project. Click my project type, and I'm expecting my project to cost just about $16,000, all told. So I'm calculating my max allowable grant request, and you can see it tells me I can make a request of up to $8,000 for my grant proposal. And that's based on the fact that I'm a small org, 45K in operating revenue, artistic project, $16,000 project budget. Okay, so if that slide with all that text about matching funds and max allowable request is a bit too much, feel free to use this form to help confirm that you're asking us a dollar amount that's allowable. That's a common proposal pitfall, folks. So make sure the dollar amount makes sense. I've seen folks submit proposals where you're requesting 100% of the cost of your project budget. That's no good. I've seen proposals requesting many thousands of dollars more than the organization's eligible to apply for. So use this allowable grant request tool to make sure that you're putting a number here that makes sense. All right. The next question kind of like helps you zero in on the key alignment point with your programming and our priorities as a funder. Let's pretend in my example here, I'm producing free and low cost cultural concerts where I'm paying my artists and performers living wages. I'm focused on cultural arts jobs and free low cost activities. I'm going to pretend I'm an organization based somewhere in Northridge. So that's the 12th Council District. Again, I showed you a resource where you can search a map or use the neighborhood info tool where you can double confirm which council district you're based in. If you are based in Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, East LA, Culver City, you won't fall under one of our 1 to 15 council districts. So you can select the elsewhere in Los Angeles County button if you're not based in LA City. The next question asks you to zero in on the specific council districts in LA City that your services are going to take place on. This one has to be in LA City. It has to be in one or more of our 15 council districts. So let's pretend I am proposing a series of concerts near my headquarter base in Northridge, North Hills, Chatsworth. But I'm also going to partner with a variety of venues in the 6th council district, neighborhoods such as Panorama City and Van Nuys. So I'm going to select that box also. Don't get too overzealous with selecting too many checkboxes here unless your project is primarily a broadcast or like an online based project where you're reaching citywide audiences. In most cases, we don't expect project proposals to have more than 5 council districts checked off here. Because any more than 5, it suggests an opportunity to scale down your project to be more focused and strategic. So pick no more than 5. And as I mentioned before, because one of the areas of priorities for us is the geography. If you have the flexibility to focus your project exclusively on the arts underserved areas, that's council districts 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12, it'll do you better. At the moment that you add in an activity taking place in downtown LA, Hollywood, it'll only dilute your geography points. Online virtual project activities, we are strongly encouraging folks to do live activities and to frame your project primarily around live in-person events. But if there are online components, if let's say you're doing a live in-person concert in Van Nuys, but you're also offering a live stream performance to serve a citywide audience, then check the box here. Online virtual activities are certainly welcome, especially when they're supplementing and complementing in-person activities. Project start and end dates. This is where we ask you to think about when you will start to first offer public-facing activities. So if you are envisioning, a fall-winter concert series that begins in September, enter September 1, and then you'll deliver all your proposed concerts before the end of the calendar year, enter 12/31. Common pitfall with this question is people are simply entering July 1 through June 30th. We don't want you to enter the allowable window. We want you to be thoughtful about realistically when does your project start and when does it begin. And as I mentioned before, projects typically are completed within up to 6 months. I have a question from Andrew.
Yes, on that section G, engagement of audience and artists. Our event isn't until October, but we start doing our vendor and our ultimakers calls in July. So would you suggest putting July as the start date of engagement?
At what point does the public interact and have an interface with your programming?
If the ultimakers start getting back to us like in August or September, and that would be the first group of public that we deal with, I think.
So that sounds like that's the beginning of your project. It's about when does your public facing activities take place?
All
So
right, great.
If I'm mounting a new theatrical production, I'm most likely starting that planning right now, or very soon. But I'm not going to open the show until spring of 2026. I'm going to put my project start date as like April 1. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I also have a hand from Gabriel. Hi, Gabriel. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Sorry, that was from earlier.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Public impact of services. So we want you to break down your public engagement numbers with these 2 fields. Participants. So that's number of your staff, number of paid artists, number of volunteers, part-time workers, occasional workers, administrative support, partnering organization staffing. Those are your project participants. Audience is pretty straightforward. It's the members of the public who are going to participate in your workshops, who are going to watch the culminating showcases and presentations. So I've sketched out a project in this example of a series of chamber music concerts where I'm engaging on average 10 musicians and guest artists. I have some administrative staff. I have graphic designers for marketing. I have technicians. I have some administrative support staff from my partnering venues. It's around 20 people participating. And I'm estimating, let's say, just under 100 people for each of 6 community concerts, getting me around 500 audience members. Okay, so that's the way those numbers work. Those are important because there's a key ratio I want us to look at once we look at the budget. Part of it relies on the number of people we're engaging as part of our project. Special constituencies, this is where you kind of highlight for the peer panelists, kind of like who your target audience is with the nature of your project. Is it primarily youth-focused programming, working with kids in elementary, middle, and or high school? Do you have targeted outreach to reach people with disabilities? Are you working in Skid Row, working with people experiencing homelessness? This is a way to kind of like easily flag for panelists any of the special constituencies that your project is geared to serve. All right, that's page 1. Next page of the proposal is all the narrative text. So this is an information that may take you longer to produce if you're doing this for the first time. The good news is some of these first questions with an asterisk next to it are also questions utilized by other funders in our region. I know Los Angeles County uses them, City of Pasadena, City of Culver City, maybe even Santa Monica as well. So if you're pursuing grants from other funders, do know efforts put toward putting thoughtful responses to these questions can be used elsewhere, potentially, depending on other funders that you are seeking. So mission statement. Okay, so this is very simple. Look at your most recently board-approved organization mission statement. Simply copy, paste it, and put it here. In 99% of the cases, it'll be a very brief 1, 2, or 3 sentences. And if it is longer than that, zero in on the part where you're showing us that you are a arts-focused nonprofit organization. Unless, of course, you're operating under a proposal, putting together a proposal for an outdoor festival or parade, in which case we don't expect to see your mission to be arts-focused. But this is a key eligibility check when we're reviewing proposals. If you're coming to us with an artistic project, you're coming to us with a Sail Cape project, festival project, if this doesn't show your mission exists to primarily deliver arts and cultural services, it may be flagged for disqualification. So dig into your board approved mission statement, make sure it is entered here. And as I mentioned before, be cautious of being tempted to include programmatic goals and visions of programming your organization does. So that's not what we're interested here. That doesn't belong here. You have an opportunity to talk about a specific program's mission and vision and goals in another part of this proposal. This is all about your 501c3 nonprofit's stated mission statement. History and programming give us a little bit of recent background about where your organization is coming from, where it is today, and where you plan to be in the next few years. Gives panelists a sense of kind of your organizational health and strategy, especially, you know, COVID wasn't terribly too far away. I imagine panelists will be interested to understand how organizations have fared that challenge and how they are looking forward to continue to deliver mission-aligned programming. So brief history, you don't have to go all the way back necessarily, unless you're a brand new organization, of course. So recent information about where you've been, where you are today, and where you're going to go. Planning and leadership give us a sense of how your organization is structured in terms of leadership, how artistic decisions are made. Is it kind of 1 or 2 leaders up on top who make those decisions? Do you operate as a collective? Do you seek community input? How do you go about those decisions? I apologize that I jumped ahead to the artistic policy. Take everything I said around artistic decision making, and that's the response you want for letter E, artistic policy. Executive leadership, collective, artist collectives. You have a process where you go by solicit feedback from community and seek community input for making artistic decisions. That's where you give panelists a sense of how you go about doing that. Planning and leadership. This is going to be about what you plan to do, how your organization's health financially looks today, and where you plan to take that in the near future. Give folks a sense of where your goals for growing your organization, if you want to grow your organization, what that looks like, how you're going about it, any strategic planning strategies you've implemented in recent years. Panelists like to see that there's some thinking about organizational health today and into the future taking place. Core audience. So this is an opportunity for you to talk about in general what your organization is, who your organization seeks to serve, but importantly, who this project will be reaching out to. Think back on that question where you checked off boxes about special constituencies. This is where you'll have an opportunity to expound on your organization's tailor-made qualifications and experience and success with reaching such targeted communities. And we spoke about artistic policy. All right, so the very meaty part of your proposal. This is your project narrative. This is the heart of your proposal where you're basically outlining in a very clear and concise way to our peer panelists what the city ought to purchase in terms of public services. Put on your journalistic hat, save your marketing language for another opportunity. This is where you put on very almost boring legal style writing. Employ that type of writing to answer the who, what, where, when, and why about your proposed project. We even want you to borrow this prompt as the very first sentence, because too many times do applicants come to us with a project that is super vague and just hard to conceptualize and hard to understand what exactly it is they're pitching to the city to invest in. So a great way to start off your sentence, your project description, is to simply say, we are seeking DCA support to produce and present, fill in the blank, a number, 6, in this example, 6 free community chamber concerts that will take place in the fall, winter of 2025 at multiple publicly accessible venues in the San Fernando Valley. That's a sample sentence that I hope you can use as a template as your introductory statement in your project description. A very simple, concise statement as to what it is the city ought to invest in. You can then describe this as explain how this is a subset, how you've carved out this subset of activities as a part of your organization's overall programming for the year. Because remember, we are not a program general operating funder, we are a project funder. So this is yet another way to articulate to the panel how you've selected a subset of your activities to comprise a DCA project. The following sentences can then answer all those other questions. Talk about the project's concept and themes and topics. What topics are you pursuing and why have you selected them? How do they resonate with the community that you're serving? Highlight any key artists and creative workers that you're going to be paying as part of this event. Give us the technical specifications of each of these services. Are these very short 30-minute concerts, or are they 1-hour concerts? How frequent? Explain all those things. Mention what audience members will get out of each of these experiences. Are they simply going to sit and watch an artistic presentation? Will there be public engagement opportunities like talkbacks, educational opportunities? Panelists like seeing interactive opportunities where it makes sense for artistic presentations. So take advantage of that opportunity to highlight those qualities of your project. Talk about where these are going to take place. Is it going to take place at traditional performing arts venues? Are you going to explore innovative partnerships with local community centers, senior centers, youth facilities, transition housing service facilities, using their recreation spaces to produce your presentations? Explain all that. And finally, make clear how this programming not only advances your organization's mission, but how it aligns with all the various priorities for DCA. Does it offer free and low cost opportunities for the public? Does it create and sustain lots of arts jobs? Does it take place in arts underserved areas of the city? Another great way to highlight how your project aligns with DCA funding priorities. Next section talks about prior outcomes and outputs. Dig into your files and dig into your feedback surveys, registration forms, audience metrics, so you can draw a picture for panelists about how successful your project was last time. How many people showed up? What did people get out of it? If you're doing a SailCape project, if you're doing any other kind of project that involves learning, skill building, art making, describe the typical workshop participant who went from a level 0 to went to a level 10. How did that look? What strategies did you employ to track this progress? What kind of tools are you using to evaluate your programming so that you have opportunities for course correction and explore ways for making it better next time you produce it? These are great ways to show panelists that you are thinking about impact and thinking about ways to make sure your program continues to be relevant and important for the communities you're serving. The next section allows you to brag about all the fabulous talents and that you have employed at your organization and that you plan to hire for your project and or event. So certainly talk about the key leadership roles and curatorial creative roles, but also list the various other artists that you're going to be paying as part of your event. Festivals in particular, this is going to be important to showcase, to show panelists how you're thinking about who you're going to recruit and showcase as part of your rotating roster of acts, musicians, groups, etc. Because panelists will want to see that there's a level of freshness with the list of artists that you plan to pay. I understand many forecasting activities, many months into the future can be difficult to have this list fully fleshed out. That's okay. Fill it out as much as you reasonably can. Elsewhere in your proposal, talk about how timing constraints limit your ability to put together too detailed of a list in this forecasting mode. There will be other ways to show panelists the quality and caliber of the artists that you plan to pay as part of your project, for your artistic samples, which we'll talk about in a second, and your list of prior year paid artists. So do know you have that in your back pocket as well. I realize I'm going over time, but if folks are willing to stick around a little bit longer, I am willing to. If folks need to sign off, I understand that as well, and I do know the recording of this will be posted on the DCA website in the next day or two.
Yeah, please continue, Ben.
Thank you, Mabu, for the encouragement. The next section are the numbers that relate to your project. So specifically the project budget, which will consist of your planned revenue sources for funding your project, followed by your planned expenses for making the project a reality. So in true nonprofit budget form, we expect your total revenue to equal exactly your total expenses. How much does a project cost to make it happen? Tell me what are the sources to make it happen. So it begins with your revenue sources. So in my example, I'm doing free concerts. So I have very little earned income here in terms of admissions or ticket sales. I could have just left this blank, but this is an opportunity for me to reiterate to the panelists reading, I'm producing this thing so that it's free to the public. So I entered zeros here and mentioned in the budget notes, these are all provided for free. And that's a great thing to take away from this this demonstration. Budget notes, please take advantage of the budget notes. All too often do we see proposals submitted with minimal notes, if any notes at all. That's a very easy way to explain to panelists how you're thinking about these numbers. It lends it makes numbers come more feasible and realistic if you can explain where they're coming from, how you're calculating it. So take advantage of those budget notes to do just that. These are other examples of earned revenue depending on the nature of your project. Maybe you have a food, like a concession stands for your presentation. Maybe you have, if you are a music school offering low cost tuitions, this is an opportunity for you to highlight how that is contributing to your revenue sources. Just make sure it's low cost. Working with a baseline of, if I'm an audience goer, I'm paying $25 to see a concert. That's about low cost. You tell us what low cost means in terms of it's a tuition program. We understand it's sometimes best to charge folks even a nominal fee just to have some skin in the game and to ensure reliable, consistent attendance, especially for serial workshop concepts. So panelists understand the importance of that. So don't be shy to include low cost registration fees or tuitions part of your budget plan. And then there's contributed income. So this is a very important section where you, number one, make sure you transfer that dollar amount you are requesting from DCA under line number 21. That's your proposed government, city government revenue source, DCA grant request. It's a common proposal pitfall to forget to include that dollar amount here. Some folks put together a very thoughtful budget, but they don't include anything from DCA. You're basically telling the panelists this project can happen without us. You want to avoid doing that. So make sure to include your DCA grant request under line 21. But this is also where you can highlight your board contributions, explain how it's calculated, your anticipated donations from private individuals. Maybe you work with a private foundation, they offer you some money. Maybe you are also a recipient of grants from Los Angeles County with their general operating grant program. You can attribute a portion of that towards a specific project. Maybe you have some state money from California Arts Council. They're all various examples of contributed income that we see often with proposals. Here's your check to make sure your grand total income is 16,000. Reminds you, okay, so my list of expenses should equal $16,000 also. If you have a robust bench of a variety of corporations, foundation, government funders that doesn't easily fit in those budget notes sections, feel free to use this extra optional space to give panelists a sense of the wide range of funders you have. Panelists like that, sometimes panelists can be concerned if your proposed funding sources consist of only your DCA grant request and earned income. They like seeing projects that have a good potential for being successfully executed, even with only a partial grant awarded from DCA. And one way of suggesting that to panelists is that you have a very robust list of other funders. Maybe as simple as that. All right, so expenses. So this is where you get to tell us all about the wonderful people you're going to hire and pay for your project. As I mentioned before, we like projects where you are paying artists, arts administrators, hiring guest artists, paying honoraria and stipends to subject matter experts in the arts. So we expect a good portion of your budget to go towards those expenses. And in fact, to the extent you can, please plan on earmarking your DCA grant ask towards those expenses. And you can share that strategy and logic with panelists by utilizing the budget notes yet again. So let's say I'm allocating a portion of my salaried musicians in this organization for these 6 concerts. This is the dollar amount calculated as X% of their annual salary. I'm going to add a note here saying that I plan to earmark my grant from DCA towards this expense. It shows panelists you're being thoughtful of DCA grant priorities and planning to use city monies towards paying for jobs. Other logical expenses are listed here. Include your guest artist stipends and honorary as well, another great area for DCA grant use. Snacks and beverages, catering and hospitality. That's an expense where you can't use DCA grant money for. DCA grant money cannot pay for things like food, travel, lodging, hospitality, equipment purchases of depreciable assets, insurance. These are all unallowable expenses. Understandable that a lot of this are essential expenses in a successful project. So feel free to include that in your project budget, but it'll be smart of you to indicate that that's going to be covered using your matching sources, because again, it shows panelists that you're thinking about including expenses here that are important, but will not be covered by DCA. All right, et cetera, et cetera. This is a very bare bones budget. Yours will be much more detailed and replete with detailed budget notes. Total expenses equals $16,000, so it equals. If it doesn't equal, you will get an error message here that suggests that. So it'll be one last check. So based on your inputted budget here, the system automatically calculates for you a cost per head ratio. It takes that total number, your total project budget, in this case $16,000, and divides it by the total number of people you're going to reach and engage. And I had around 500 some people. So when I divide $16,000 by 500 or so, I'm getting a project cost per head ratio of around $30. That's just about what we typically see across our portfolio. I was very intentional in picking a ratio here that kind of reflects the average. And this is an important ratio to keep in mind. It helps you decide and determine whether or not your project is right-sized for DCA funding. If you're coming to us with a project, a series of concert presentations where it's primarily a passive experience, I'm buying a ticket or it's free, or I'm sitting down watching an hour-long performance, and I'm getting a cost per head that's in the $100 plus range, that's going to be flagged as very, very expensive. That is a very expensive project for us, given the nature of the work. If, on the other hand, you're coming to us with a sale cape proposal, where you have a team of teaching artists working with a same 15 to 20 middle schoolers over a 3-month period of weekly rigorous sequential arts learning that culminates in the public presentation, we expect that project to cost more than $30 a person. And in fact, we oftentimes see those projects costing more than $100 per person on the cost per head basis. That's great too. So all that to say that we welcome projects of a wide range of cost per head ratios, but it's incumbent upon you to justify that cost based on the experience and characteristics of your project proposal. On the other end of that spectrum, by the way, are large parades and festivals where you're going to be reaching, 5, 6, 7,000 people with a project of, $50,000. You're going to get a cost per head of very thrifty, of oftentimes less than $10 or $5 a person. So that's another type of project where that's an expected cost per head ratio. You have an opportunity to explain your cost per head ratio in detail in that previous narrative section around the public impact of your proposed services. That's the section where you talk about your metrics and your prior year performance numbers. Cost per head should be one of those things you discuss. Any questions regarding that? All right, moving along. That was the last page of the proposal. And so so after you click next, this will be an opportunity for you to mark it as complete. And that's one of the heaviest lifts of the proposal. Most of the other things I want to say, short of the data arts survey, is a little bit more straightforward. That's the majority of your time, is really kind of fleshing out your narrative responses, making sure it's clear and concise and within our word count limitations. The Data Arts Funder Report is where you will upload that PDF you've saved from your SMU Data Arts page. You can go ahead and upload that. I have a placeholder here, but you'll have a PDF that you can upload there. If you are an emerging arts organization or an outdoor festival parade producer who is not an arts organization, you can upload a 990 here in lieu of your Data Arts report. If you have some explanations or some weird numbers there, because there'll be trend lines, because you'll have 2 or more years in it. If there's some weird variances, you can use this narrative field to explain that to panelists who are reviewing your proposal. I'm going to mark that as complete. Next item on my checklist is an optional financial snapshot and variances. If you want to supplement your data arts reporting in your 990 with additional information like a balance sheet, profit loss statement, that's an opportunity to upload. It's an optional field. You don't need to do that. IRS designation letter, this is super easy. You already have this probably saved somewhere in your desktop or easily in your files. Simply upload a PDF version of that for us here. Mark that complete. That's one thing we look at to make sure you're a 501c3. Next is your organization's board of directors. Please, please, please use our board member Excel sheet worksheet. A common pitfall is applicants may upload a ready-made PDF of their list of board members. Please don't do that. Fill out our Excel sheet. It helps standardize the information for our panelists. It highlights the key roles and areas of expertise and history on the board in a standard way. So please use the Excel sheet. And in fact, we want you to upload your board list in the Excel format. Just one last check to confirm you're uploading it in the proper format. Andrew, yes, you have a question.
Yes, we're a program of community partners, so I'm always a little confused as to whether I should include their board members as the board members, or the people that we have from the community that are our board members.
That's a good question. Projects at community partners can range in size and organizational complexity. If you have a list of board members that is for you only, I welcome you to upload that. Otherwise,
okay,
the community partners board list will suffice.
All right, thank you.
All right, artistic work samples, super important, super important. This is a performing arts year. Most of our applicants are going to be in the performing arts disciplines, dance, music, theater, multidisciplinary arts. Please, to the extent possible, please consider uploading links, because if you upload links for your artistic samples, you can upload videos, and videos are very welcome. Imagine our panelists, their eyes are bleeding and sore from reading lots and lots and lots of text from tens and potentially hundreds of proposals. This is your opportunity to delight them with a really inspiring video of your project in action the last time. So some considerations for artistic documentation: whether or not you choose to upload 3 links or 10 static images, is to show panelists a sense of what your project is like as if they were there. Avoid the temptation to ask your marketing person or marketing team to, hey, give me the latest sizzle reel from our project from last year. Highly splashy, edited, overproduced videos are not the best for this section, as panelists want to see the experience more from like an audience goer or a workshop participant's perspective. If your project is primarily around free or low-cost concerts for the public, consider uploading 3 great examples of or examples of great high quality artistic caliber performances taking place on the stage. Show a highly engaged audience. Well-attended attendance, a well-attended space is also encouraged. Avoid uploading a sample where it's sparsely attended, lots of empty seats. That's not a good idea. In instances where you're doing projects that include skill building, if you're doing a Sail Cape project, any workshop type of activities, also a good idea here to include a taste of what it's like to be in that room, so that we can see the quality of workshop facilitation of teaching from your teaching artists. So good ideas to share with panelists the various angles of the activities you plan to produce. So if you're going to do links, you're allowed to upload up to 3 links. In many instances, our applicants like to use YouTube, Vimeo, sometimes a Google Drive if you want to share a range of multimedia samples. Maybe you have a PowerPoint deck you want panelists to see. You can upload that as a link as well. Do know we advise our panelists not to spend more than 5 to 6 minutes in total for viewing artistic samples. So be thoughtful about panelists' time, and to the extent that you can edit your samples so that it's exactly the moments that you want panelists to see. If for whatever reason you're uploading a much longer video, it is a good idea to include, I'm just putting a placeholder here. It's a good idea to use this text field to indicate a start time, end time. If you do need to employ passwords for accessing the work, we encourage you, if you can avoid it, please avoid it. If you need to do it, this is a space where you can enter the password panelists might need to use to view your sample. Do know you're submitting this proposal by August 30th, but panelists will not realistically be clicking into it until November, December, January. So if you are going to upload a video specifically just for this purpose, make sure it has a shelf life that goes well in at least through the month of January of next year. I see a question from Jessica.
Hi, thank you. In terms of, so I'll be applying for a play, a theater experience,
Okay.
which has not been done before, but we have done other plays. So would that be like, I could put 3 samples of other plays and just explain it in the box of this
That's
is
exactly
past
what
work?
it is. Yep.
Great.
You're coming to us with a project. The project concept that you have done before is you've mounted and produced and presented presentations of a play. And so we fully expect that you might be proposing an entirely new work, or a work that hasn't been done in a very long time and may not have samples for that specific work. That's totally fine. Use the artistic samples section as an opportunity to show panelists your prowess in mounting a high quality, you know, highly engaging theatrical production.
Great.
And you do
Thank
that
very
by
much.
showing what's happening on the stage, as well as showing an engaged audience. That's the way to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Great. That's artistic samples. If the images, if that's another option for showcasing artistic work samples. If you have no choice but to do images, you can upload up to 10 images. Upload high resolution images of your sample. You'll have an opportunity to enter notes about what it is panelists are looking at. So if there are folks applying under design visual who are submitting an off-cycle proposal, that's a logical format of showcasing artistic samples. But for our festivals, for our dance concerts, for our theatrical presentations or music concerts, please use videos. Panelists might ding you if you are showing images of a concert, images of a play, when you had an opportunity to show a video. All right, next. That was artistic samples. Now we are at the home stretch. We're looking at supplementary materials. These are a series of uploads you're going to provide to supplement the narrative you've included in your proposal. First one's a super important one. It's the project location attachment. We're not asking you to get signed letters of confirmation from your proposed venues and locations. Rather, we want you to self-report your proposed partner venues and locations, sharing us key details as location, of course, council district in LA City, seating capacity or public capacity, and your key contact there. And importantly, number of years you've worked with that site. That is a way of showing panelists that if you're proposing a location, how likely that venue will welcome you back to do this event again several months into the future. You're certainly free to propose new potential venues and locations. You will indicate that you haven't worked with them before, but it will just raise more doubt for panelists as to how likely would you be able to produce your proposed activities at that location. So that's an important attachment. Make sure to upload that. Attachment B is also critical. Please prepare a list of all the various creative workers and artists that you paid the very last time you did your project. So whereas in the proposal, you might be given the pass for not having a fully fleshed out list of proposed artists, musicians, bands, dancers, multidisciplinary artists that you're going to be paying and recruiting several months in the future. This one should be nice and robust because this has taken place already. Dig back into your files, take a look at all the artists you paid, and provide a list of them here with any quick blurb about them. Yet another way of showing the quality and caliber of the professional artist that you are going to be employing. Attachment C is a required upload to show us a third outside voice telling us about how wonderful your organization and your programming is. You have spent many pages and materials here showcasing how you are fantastic. Panelists like to hear from other people outside of your organization who would say the same. So press piece from on the news, on TV, in the newspaper, press release, any piece of independent journalism. We've had like performing arts venues that have also shared Yelp reviews here. So that's another way you can share an outside voice if you have difficulty accessing press. Another question from Jessica. Yes.
Thank you. For something like that, if we have, do you want the reviews actually like embedded in the PDF or links to with quotes?
Better to upload a singular PDF with what you want panelists to read.
Thank you.
Yeah. Attachment D, this is an optional field, but can be required depending on the nature of your project. We had an applicant here considering a Sail Cape project. Absolutely require that you upload a sample curriculum that you plan to deploy in your project, because in your panel, you're going to have arts education experts, art specialists with LA Unified, other teaching artists from outside our region who will be accustomed to seeing detailed rigorous curricula aligned with state arts learning standards. So make sure to upload a sample of that here so that you can show panelists that this is indeed a CLK project by virtue of it having this very rigorous sequential curriculum. Other projects where it's a good idea to upload this is any project that includes any kind of workshop structure, skill building element. Let's say you are a after school in the neighborhood community music school that does an after school music education program. It culminates in a public presentation. That's not a CLK project. However, it's still a great idea to show the panelists that you have very clear learning objectives, a clear learning outline, and a very ambitious educational arc of learning that you plan to deploy in your project. Even though it doesn't have to be arts, California art standards aligned, it's still an opportunity for you to show panelists you're thinking about and have a ready to go education plan for that project. Even concerts, if you're just doing a series of concerts or a series of theatrical presentations, is there like a public school study guide that you're going to publish along with it? Is there going to be interactive educational opportunity during the concert with the audience where you can show learning outcomes and educational objectives? Those are great examples to upload in this optional field, even though you're not a CLK project. So consider that. Non-arts partners. So this is another optional but highly encouraged upload. Panelists like seeing organizations who are delivering programs, communities where they have lots of friends. And oftentimes those friends are not arts organizations. If you have, other city agencies you partner with, if you have social service agencies, social justice organizations that you partner with in the delivery of your project, great idea to compile a list of them here and your history with them, just to show panelists you have friends outside of the arts world and that you're making efforts to make meaningful relationships and connections with non-arts organizations in the communities you're serving. And the final optional upload is a letter of recommendation. This kind of like piggybacks off the press material. Any other outside voices that can really substantiate the quality of programming that you're proposing to deliver is strongly encouraged. So dig into your files, find that unsolicited email or letter from a past concert goer, past middle school student you worked with, who are just really over the moon about the quality of your programming and what impact it has had on their lives. Testimonials, letter of recommendation, compile them into a PDF and upload it here. Those go a long way in showing panelists the extent of your impact in the communities that you are serving. These last two attachments are optional. It's often a missed opportunity not to utilize them. So the strongest proposals we see will have taken advantage of this. And so by virtue of you being in this workshop past our advertised time, you're eager to be A+ students. So take advantage of these optional fields. Generally speaking, you come across a grant proposal, it's optional. If you can take advantage of it, take advantage of it. It'll only help your program. Oh, what is this, an error? Not cool. Let me see. What just happened there? I was at those were supplementary materials. I marked this complete. It's like it's all good. Once I have all the minimum check marks completed, I have this very satisfying green button I can click. I'm gonna go ahead and click on that now. I'm gonna click on submit. But just kidding, before I click submit, I always encourage people to double check, recheck, and triple check all your completed items. Make sure everything looks the way you want it to look. Common pitfalls include narrative responses that have been inadvertently truncated because they copy pasted it from Word and pasted it in, but it was cut off because it exceeded the character count. Don't do that. Maybe in your supplementary materials, you uploaded your project locations upload correctly, but then you accidentally uploaded it again as your list of past artists. Don't do that. Then you've missed out on that essential upload. These are all things you should double check, recheck, ask a colleague to offer their pair of eyes also. After you've done that, then click submit. And even the system will ask you to double check once more, and you can click submit. And then you'll get a confirmation email that your material was submitted in time. You're going to get a confirmation email confirming timely receipt, as well as instructions to do one last step, and that is to print out the narrative components of your proposal and to mail it to us. Yes, yes, we still ask for a hard copy mailed version of a proposal. So we appreciate you preparing that soon after your online submission and getting it to us. We ask that you postmark that at least a week after the August 30th deadline. All right, I think we've gone through the proposal. Is there anything else I'd like folks would like me to cover? Any questions I can address? I am not hearing any. This is incredible. People are tired. It's the end of the evening. I hear you. I hear you.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
My light is really weird. Sorry. I am with the Hollywood Fringe Festival. And hello. So, you know, we have been awarded funds in the past. Thank you. So as a returning organization, I was wondering, is there a way to see our past proposal panel scores so that we can know if
Yes.
we're on the same track or?
We extend an invitation to all of our returning applicants to schedule coaching calls with DCA grant staff to do just that. We're at the tail end of the cycle now, but I think it can still be done. Please send an email to dca.grants@lacity.org to make that request.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
But I hope a lot of this material was helpful for you. You have the advantage in that you can borrow a lot from your proposal from last time. And in fact, you can borrow the very first sentence of your grant service contract with the LA City and use that as the starting point for your proposal.
Okay.
To produce and present X number, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
No problem. Let me see here. I have not been checking the text box, folks. So if there's a question there that you entered earlier that not get addressed, please unmute yourself. And Alex, I see a hand being raised. Alex, you have a question? Please feel free to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yes. Okay. Hello. Hi, Ben, and thank you. And thank you, everyone. I have a quick question about the list of the artists that will be in the supplementary materials section. I believe we had some 80 actors in 2023. How will we handle that? Would you want to buy it? It's a lot of people. Would you want everyone? Yeah.
Good question. You're very fortunate to have that very robust list. There's no page limitation on this attachment. So if you have the wherewithal to put a list full of all those people, you can do so. But in that instance, you might want to provide a very strong representative sample of all the key artists with an emphasis on local artists. So you see that we put a special emphasis on artists who live and work in LA City. So you can prioritize listing those folks. And then you can indicate somewhere at the bottom of your attachment that, you know, this is a subset of a much more robust list. And is that information available online? Is there something you can point panelists to if they wish to look at the full list? That could be a way of doing it.
I know we have a print version. I don't think so online.
Okay. If you have a print version, feel free to put it together. Yeah, there's no page limitation. In all likelihood, panelists will skim it, emphasizing the review in the first few pages. But the quantity will be very impressive to panelists, I would imagine.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Great. Well, folks, I want to thank you for hanging around over 30 minutes longer than advertised. I hope this was valuable. We are very interested in, you know, new projects from new organizations, proposals from returning organizations. You all make our city a wonderful and exciting place to live. So I thank you for that. If you have questions between now and the application deadline, feel free to reach out to us, dca.grants@lacity.org. We'll work to get back to you. Do know the volume of those inquiries, last minute frantic calls does go up exponentially the last week. So the sooner you get your questions to us, the better. And we'll probably be less grumpy too. So that'll probably be extra good news. So in the meantime, I want to thank you again. I am going to aim to get a video of this posted on the DCA website under the webinars section of the guidelines for future reference. Give me at least a couple of days to do that, but I'll get it up there soon enough. All right, folks, have a great evening. Thank you again.